Suicide Squad, directed by David Ayer, takes us to a post-Batman v Superman world where the government is saying, what happens if the next Superman isn't so nice and he wants to destroy the world? We need some top-notch superheroes to defend our country. So the government turns to the most badass villains in Suicide Squad, with Deadshot, played by Will Smith, Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, Captain Boomerang, played by Jai Courtney, and various other supporting villains to defend the world and take a couple of years off their sentence, I guess. Now it seems that we're getting a little deja vu from Batman v Superman. I mean, a lot of hate going towards this movie already, and I put this hate aside. I'm like, you know what? It was 32% for Batman v Superman when I went to see it in theaters, and I didn't think it was that bad of a movie. They're probably hyping this up, and this is not a terrible film as they're saying. But unfortunately, this movie is quite the mess. Now going in, I didn't know a whole lot about Suicide Squad. I haven't read the comic books or anything. I knew who Harley Quinn was from the animated series along with Killer Croc and obviously the Joker. But I didn't know anything about Suicide Squad, who Deadshot was, or these other supporting villains were. Even Katana, who's not even a villain, but she's like the only superhero, I guess, who's part of this Suicide Squad. Judging by the trailers, especially the Ballroom Blitz trailer, I was really looking forward to this movie. That trailer sold me on this movie, and I thought this was going to be finally the movie that was going to set up the DCEU, and some of the problems with this movie are just the pacing itself. I feel like the transition from one scene to the next isn't so smooth. They have such choppy cuts. As someone who edits videos on YouTube, I can tell when things were cut. There was like at least, within like one scene, there was at least like 10 cuts made. So assuming that most people don't know who the Suicide Squad was going into this movie should have introduced these characters a lot better. And in fact, Deadshot might be the only character that was actually fully developed. They started to do it with Harley Quinn, with how she met the Joker, and then they just totally dropped it. But Deadshot is the most well-introduced character of the entire film. All those other villains that are part of the Suicide Squad, they're just in this movie and they have no backstory. In fact, some of those characters, you don't really understand why they're in the movie. There's one character by the name of Slipknot. This guy, he's part of Suicide Squad, but if you blink, you might miss the fact that he's actually part of the Suicide Squad. There's another character, Katana. Don't understand what she's doing on the Suicide Squad. They don't introduce the character very well at all. Killer Croc from the animated series, I'm sure a lot of people like that character. I like that character from the animated series, and this movie did nothing with that character. Boomerang didn't really do anything in the movie. He was more of the comic relief of the film. And then there was another guy, Diablo. I kind of understand why he doesn't want to use his special powers anymore, but there is no backstory to what happened. Each villain, part of the Suicide Squad, gets a small introduction of who they were, but nothing really big to get us hooked onto the character. They spend no time trying to develop these characters and tell us why they're actually part of this Suicide Squad and anything about them. Killer Croc, he's just grunting the entire film. Katana, there's really one scene where Katana's husband's soul is trapped in this sword. That's about the only backstory we get to who Katana is and why she's even part of the Suicide Squad. She's not a villain. Why is she part of the Suicide Squad? Boomerang, he doesn't do anything in the movie. Most of the time, he's not even fighting in the movie. He's got two little knives, but he does nothing. He does nothing in the movie. Then we got another oddball thrown in here with the villain, and that is Enchantress. Really don't understand what her motivation is to do what she's doing in this film. She opens a portal in the middle of the city. She's trying to make like zombies to take over the world or something. And then we also have some entity in the sky. She's got her brother who looks like he's from Gods of Egypt. He is just a complete CGI mess there. Terrible villain. No reason why the Suicide Squad would even be facing this villain in the first place. I don't know why the government chose the Suicide Squad to take on this villain. In fact, the entire movie, I was actually wondering why it was that the government turned to villains to do the government's work. I mean, aren't there no other superheroes around to save the day? And then you don't get that question answered until the after credits scene, which I won't spoil for those who haven't seen the film. But really, you don't get that until after the movie ends, you get that question answered. And then you realize, well, the Suicide Squad's kind of pointless, and there's more than likely not going to be a sequel because the Suicide Squad are no longer relevant. Now, Joker. I was not really looking forward to this new Joker. He's all glammed out. He's got a grill. He's got these smiley tattoos on his forearm, on his hand. He's driving like a pink Lambo. He's got all this jewelry on him. He looks like he's from the hood. And I was not really looking forward to this Joker. Joker doesn't get a whole lot of scenes in this film. He's kind of sprinkled all over the film, but he's got like 30-second scenes and bam, that's it. He's gone for another 30 minutes and then we get to see him again and then he's just pops in and out, and we don't get enough of him, so I don't know if I like this new Joker. We're definitely going to need to see more. Apparently, from what I'm hearing, there's a bunch of deleted Joker scenes that the movie did, and maybe there'll be a director's cut or something, an ultimate cut like they did with Batman v Superman. But I'm starting to really hate this. A movie does bad, and then the film is like, oh wait, we have some deleted scenes that we got out, we're going to release an ultimate cut or something. The other problems I had with this film was the music. Instead of creating an original score for this film, they just threw in a bunch of famous rap songs or even a couple of rock songs. That was probably the easiest thing they could have done. Okay, we need to lighten the mood. People were complaining that Batman was too dark. We need to throw in all this cool music and people are going to love this. This is going to be, Guardians of the Galaxy did it. Why can't we do it? The music doesn't fit the film. It ends up feeling like this is a 2-hour music video. Even though I liked some of the songs, like Fortunate Son by CCR or Paranoid by Black Sabbath in this movie. While I like those songs, they don't fit in the film. I like the characters. I like Harley Quinn. I like Deadshot. But I feel like the story just isn't interesting enough, nor is the villain. You don't understand what their motivation is to be doing all this crap in the city. Opening portals up and crap. I mean, what is this, Warcraft? I mean, I don't get it. The villain isn't very intimidating. You don't understand why they're there in the first place. We got another entity in the sky. This is Ghostbusters all over again. We got more CGI disaster with this Incubus fellow. Why he shows up in the film, I don't know. Enchantress at one point in that movie is doing some kind of belly dancing towards the end of the movie. For anyone who's watched the film, watch like the last 20 minutes of that movie. Tell me this Enchantress is not doing belly dancing. She's waving her arms like this. I don't know what the hell that was all about. And is the city this desperate to get villains out on the street to do their work for them? There's all these other superheroes. There is an encyclopedia of DC superheroes. There's well over 100. Where are they? Is Katana the only person you could find? With that being said, I'm going to be giving Suicide Squad a C. So as much as I like the characters of the film, which is probably the only thing going for this movie, is that they got the casting pretty good, and the acting itself is well done. Clearly you can tell that there was a lot of deleted scenes, because the transitions from one scene to the next just are very choppy, and just, it looked like this film was rushed. And this is exactly why I'm worried about the next two films that DC is planning on doing with Justice League and Wonder Woman. They need to take their time. They are competing with Marvel. And I know there's always been this competition between Marvel and DC. Now that Marvel has developed this expanded universe, DC's like, this is the formula for success. And they're jumping the boat and rushing to get as many movies out there as possible. And I've said this, quality is better than quantity. And DC needs to take their time. Because right now they are shooting themselves in the foot, trying to release as many films as they can. And each movie keeps getting worse and worse. Batman v Superman, I still will defend that movie. It's not a bad movie. It should not deserve that much hate. This movie, also, I wouldn't say this movie deserves all this hate, because right now you look at Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has under 20, what is it? It has like 27% on Rotten Tomatoes. Does this movie deserve that much hate? I don't think so. Once Batman v Superman got all this backlash, this movie was like, crap, we need to go to work. And every movie does reshoots. But this movie did a lot of reshoots to lighten the mood, and it shows. This movie is rushed. There's a lot of problems with it, and it's like, if you want to make changes to the movie, just change the release date. No one's going to be pissed off, and maybe if they are, who cares? Push this movie back another 2 months, 3 months. Take your time. No. Instead, they're like, okay, we got 4 months, we got to fix everything, and that's it. And it shows. It's crap. It shows, and I'm really getting frustrated with these entire DC films because they're rushing to get shit out and it's not good. And then there's all this hate going towards the directors. People are like, oh yeah, Zack Snyder better not direct another superhero movie. Or David Ayer did a terrible movie, you know. This isn't necessarily all the director's fault. The studio is pretty much directing this movie. They're telling the directors, okay, you can do this, you can't do this, no, you can't do this, oh, you better put this in the film. Pretty much the director almost has no say, it seems like, in these DC films anymore, because the Warner Brothers is scared out of their minds about what's going to happen, because they're already kind of scared about what happened with Batman v Superman. Now that Suicide Squad didn't do too well, I mean, it's doing pretty well in the box office, but the fact that it's not getting good enough reception, it's getting them worried. And Justice League and Wonder Woman have to be a success for them, because in the box office, I'm sure it will be a success, but are they more concerned about money, or are they more concerned about pleasing their fans? And right now, I am frustrated with these last couple of films. Man of Steel is a pretty decent film. Batman v Superman, I liked. It's got problems, but this movie is just not good enough. It's frustrating the hell out of me that we can't have this. I hate talking crap about DC films. Like, you know, there's all this thing about, well, oh, you're a Marvel fan, you hate DC films. No, it's just I'm frustrated that we're getting these films. I'm not going to say that a movie is really good when it's bad. This movie was significantly worse than Batman v Superman, and I'm not even going to get this movie on Blu-ray. It's rewatchable, but I don't recommend that people watch it, actually. I mean, I would say skip this movie, go see Jason Bourne. It's a much better movie that's out in theaters right now. This movie's got a lot of problems with it. This movie does not deserve to have like 27% on Rotten Tomatoes. The problem is that there's no middle ground. It's either you really like the film or you really hate the film. And that's why I really don't like Rotten Tomatoes that much, because judging by Rotten Tomatoes, this movie bombed along with Batman v Superman. But anyway, guys, that is my review of Suicide Squad. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Comment your thoughts down below if you've seen the film. Do you think that this movie was a flat-out bomb? Were there things that you liked about it? If you haven't, just any thoughts you have on the film itself. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time for more unboxings, reviews, and movie news.